Hi folks, my name is Phil and welcome to Grounded, the series which looks at airlines of yesteryear. Since the holidays are upon us and this Christmas looks set to be just as depressing as last Christmas, I thought I'd do something slightly different. This episode of Grounded will take a look at CelebAir. Produced by Zeppotron and aired on ITV2, CelebAir was a thankfully short-lived TV show which would see various celebrities taking on roles within an airline. Monarch Airlines, one of the oldest and most respected airlines in the UK, had an obvious fit of madness and agreed to go along with Zeppotron, and thus CelebAir was born. In July 2008, a Monarch Airlines Airbus A321 was adorned with the CelebAir livery. Basically, it wore the standard Monarch livery, a white fuselage with a wavy blue belly which wisps up towards the tail, with the rear portion of the fuselage painted yellow. Instead of the rather reserved Monarch titles on the forward fuselage, however, the aircraft would instead have CelebAir billboard titles with additional ITV2 branding towards the rear. The tail would feature a gold star crossing a lime green circle to form the airline's logo. The colour palette was an interesting one, a combination of dark blue and lime green. The dark blue was the same shade being used by Monarch, and the lime green was necessary as it was the colour scheme of the ITV2 channel at the time. Around the same time that Monarch unveiled the CelebAir aircraft, ITV began to run promotional trailers for the programme, telling viewers to visit their website to see what flights they could book onto to be included in the programme. The CelebAir flights would operate from London Gatwick to Alicante, Faro, Ibiza, Larnaca, Mahon, Malaga and Tenerife. Of course, this was all just television, so in order to bypass those trivial formalities such as licenses, certification and atoll bonding, CelebAir flights would be sold by Monarch for seats on regular Monarch flights. CelebAir would be restricted to just the rear cabin of the A321, so around 12 rows of seats, some of which would be branded as showbiz class, an attempt at a premium service. All of the seats were standard Monarch economy seats, just with different headrest covers, either for showbiz class or CelebAir. This was so that the CelebAir aircraft could operate regular Monarch flights when not on TV duties, and to also allow another A321 to be substituted in if required. The CelebAir crew would also have their own uniforms, a navy blue suit with a white shirt and yellow tie. Not too far off the normal Monarch uniform, however the CelebAir uniform also featured the airline branding on the left breast and a rather gaudy lime green shooting star on the lapel. For the ladies, this ensemble was crowned with a little hat which was navy blue with lime green trim and was far too small to be worn correctly. The first CelebAir flight departed on the 26th of August 2008, with the CelebAir A321 flying from London Gatwick to Alicante. On board were a number of representatives of the press, along with some family and friends of the celebrity crew. The flight would land in Alicante and the CelebAir passengers and crew would disembark to spend the day by the pool in sunny Spain, so you can already guess how the TV show is going to go. Basically, the crew would work an outbound sector, then spend the afternoon doing something trendy, or spend the night partying. Hardly a true reflection on what short-haul crew, especially for a charter airline, would experience. CelebAir, the programme, would make its on-screen debut on the 2nd of September 2008 on ITV2. It would introduce the stars of the show, the CelebAir crew. The CelebAir team was a mixed bag featuring Lisa Maffia, a singer, Amy LeMay, a comedian, Dan O'Connor, an actor, Phil Cornwell, a comedian and impressionist, Kenzie, a rapper, Misha Paris, a singer, Johnny Shental, another singer, Lisa Scott Lee, yet another singer and wife of Johnny, Michelle Marsh, a model, Tamara Beckwith, a socialite, and Chico, an X Factor contestant. This ragtag group wouldn't just be let loose on an aircraft, however. They would first undergo 6 weeks of cabin crew training at Monarch's headquarters in Luton. Monarch was always one of the toughest and strictest airlines when it came to training, but the celebs made it through, though one could speculate that they didn't really do much when the cameras were off. Regardless of this, the CelebAir crew would operate as supernumerary crew members when on board, under the watchful eye of experienced Monarch cabin crew instructors, referred to as mentors in the programme. The CelebAir crew would not have any safety critical duties and stick to the customer service side of the role whilst operating from the rear galley. The CelebAir crew would do the in-flight services, starting with the in-flight drink service. Interestingly, due to broadcasting regulations in the United Kingdom, a TV programme cannot give undue prominence to company logos and branding. A result of this was that all drinks and snacks handed out to passengers when the cameras were rolling would be put into a CelebAir branded paper bag. It also explains why most Monarch logos on screen were also blurred out. So much for that free publicity then. Some items on the duty-free trolley were specially produced and only available on the flight, so these were visible to the camera. These included toy aeroplanes branded in the CelebAir livery. I say toy as they're not the standard type of model aircraft available on a regular flight. They also had their own perfume available, Decent, which I think is pretty creative, though I don't know how it smells. The CelebAir team wouldn't just be working in the air, however. They would also find themselves working the CelebAir check-in desk and also on gate duties to help board the aircraft. This was particularly handy as Tamara Beckwith was pregnant during shooting and was unable to work on board the aircraft, as airline policy is to assign pregnant crews ground duties. The CelebAir check-in desk was located at the end of a row of normal Monarch Airlines desks in Gatwick South Terminal. The desk will be operated by 2 crew rotated in for each episode. After covering the desk, they would then head over to the gate to help with the aircraft boarding process. If you had booked a showbiz class seat, then you were in for an experience. A private lounger waited. Well, in reality it was just a small room with a few bits in. The real experience came if you were in need of the relaxation room, where there was an offer of some relaxing yoga or Lisa Mafia performing a relaxing massage while singing at you. Each episode would see the CelebAir crew undertaking their assigned roles, be it on the ground or in the air, and at the end of each episode the crew member who had underperformed would be eliminated from the show. Passengers on CelebAir flights were asked to vote for the crew member which had impressed them the most and the one that had impressed them the least, and these votes were used to help decide who got sacked each week. The first person to get the boot was Misha Paris in episode 1. Kenzie followed close behind the following week, and Tamara Beckwith was given her marching orders in the 3rd episode. Phil Cornwell was eliminated in episode 4, and episode 5 had a double elimination when the husband and wife team of Johnny Chantal and Lisa Scott Lee was sacked for gross misconduct. They'd gone to a party down route and refused to fly home. Neighbours actor Dan O'Connor was dropped in episode 6. Michelle Marsh was next to go in episode 7, leaving the finale a choice of 3, Amy LeMay, Lisa Mafia and Chico. The series finale was broadcast on the 23rd of October and would see Lisa Mafia crowned the winner of the competition. Amy LeMay was runner-up and Chico came 3rd. Shortly after the series finale had aired, ITV announced that due to poor ratings there would be no second series of the show, leaving CelebAir grounded permanently. So, what went wrong? In a nutshell, it was supposedly reality TV, but there wasn't really much reality in the programme, and as a result the show suffered. Of course, one can't have high hopes for an airline run by celebrities, and in the end the final product was about as much as folks had expected. There have been other TV shows which focused on aviation. Airport, which looked at the day-to-day life at Heathrow, lasted a whopping 11 seasons. Airline, which started with Britannia and moved to EasyJet, lasted 10 seasons, and also led to an American spin-off which looked at Southwest. There was even Holiday Airline, another spin-off from the regular airline, and looked at Monarch. All of these had a simple format. They looked at the people, be it the crew, ground staff or passengers, but also looked at the industry. Even Trolley Dollies, a knock-off of Airline with a somewhat insulting title and had looked at XL Airways, made some attempt at sticking to this formula, though it only lasted 1 season as it strayed too far. Instead it focused too much on a small number of crew, almost like CelebAirwood a few years later. CelebAir was just a few lesser-known celebrities pissing around on board an aircraft, working one sector, then partying all night at the destination while the cameras rolled. It didn't offer any real insight into the role of cabin crew and just came across as fake, and the viewing figures reflected that. The first episode brought in 549,000 viewers, but the following week saw that almost halve to 266,000. It dropped slightly the following week, then nearly halved again to just 163,000. While the numbers went up slightly to 273,000, they never went any higher, and even the series finale only reached 254,000 people. On a personal note, I've only got 2 actual memories of CelebAir, and both were from the same night. When my airline, XL Airways, went bust, I'd been in bed, between duties, and having been woken up with a phone call with the bad news, I made my way to our Gatwick crew room in Concord House. After being given my marching orders, I ended up standing outside Concord House with both Michelle Marsh and Chico, both of whom were pretty nice to chat to and sympathetic to our plight, with one noting that we're suddenly out of work and they're just doing TV. The second memory was from a short while later, when after an argument erupted in the South Terminal check-in area between myself, a number of XO crew, and the assistant director of the show, they were told to pack up early, as it was a bit inconsiderate considering the circumstances. As for CelebAir, it was pretty much exactly what everyone expected or had feared, and fortunately put out of its misery after the one season. Monarch Airlines, an airline very close to my heart, would go through changes in the years following CelebAir. They would drop the charter flying completely and become some hybrid mix of a low-cost airline and scheduled carrier. Their new owners would sadly run the company into the ground, and Monarch would cease operations just shy of their 50th birthday in October 2017. On that somewhat depressing ending, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I figured with it being a Christmas episode I should try and do something a bit more cheerful than an airline's demise, and CelebAir happened to fit in nicely. I will be covering the full story of Monarch Airlines in due course. It's just very complicated and still working its way through the courts. It's also a rather painful one for me to do. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, suggestions or criticisms, please do get in touch. If you don't have a YouTube doodah, don't worry. I've got a contact form on my website and I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. I have plenty more episodes in the works, so if you haven't already, why not subscribe to catch them as they land? And thanks again for watching, and I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays and a prosperous New Year.